My name is Jillian Brinkley, and I work at Alexander Funeral Homes and Cemetery. And I would like to welcome you here today for our third annual Wreaths Across America Day ceremony. We are so proud to be a part of this wonderful celebration of veterans taking place at over 3,000 cemeteries across the country today. I think that's amazing. Please join me now in a moment of silence to remember the fallen, the prisoners of war, the missing in action, and honor those who have served and are serving in our great nation's armed services. Thank you. And now Tom Camp, chaplain of VFW 1114, will deliver the invocation.
God of life and love, we come to you as we begin this Wreaths Across America initiative. In the evergreen of these wreaths, we see a sign of your life that stands courageously in the face of much darkness around us. You remind us that your life is more powerful than any hatred and fear. In the veterans that we honor, we hear your words. There is no greater gift than to give one's life in their service to others. In this Christmas time, let us remember again that unless life is lived for others, it is not worth living. Let us continue to be that example for young people as we continue to challenge them. May they come to know that true freedom lies in willingness to serve others. We make this our prayer in and through you, O God, the source of life and love for all of us. Amen.
Thank you, Tom. Now I would like to ask all the veterans here today to either raise your hand or stand so everyone can see who you are. That's almost all of our... Thank you so very, very much for your service. Okay. Please stand now while we present the colors. We have the color guards from the American Legion overdone post number 5, VFW post 2953, and the Sons of the American Revolution. And remain standing through the Pledge of Allegiance and the playing of our national anthem. Now I'd like to introduce Girl Scouts Troop number 484, Boy Scouts number 383, the American Heritage Girls, and the Evansville Society of Children of the American Revolution to do our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Now I would like to introduce our first speaker. Mr. David Brown is a veteran of the United States Air Force, where he was trained as an air traffic controller. He was assigned to the RAF in Lakenheath, England, controlling air traffic in and out of Lakenheath and RAF Mendenhall. He became interested in U.S. history very early and has traveled the United States visiting presidents' homes, libraries, and museums. He started his amazing collection of presidential documents many years ago, and we've just learned that his collection will be displayed at the Evansville Museum beginning in May of 2022. If you get a chance, please don't miss that. David has been involved with the Wreaths Across America program since we started it in 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Brown.
Thank you all for joining us here today. Right now, across the country, at more than 3,000 memorial sites like this one, we are gathered as one nation to remember, honor, and teach. We are all proud to be Americans living in a free society made up of many people from many walks of life. But the freedoms we enjoy today have not come without a price. Lying here before us and in cemeteries throughout this nation are men and women who gave their lives so that we can live in freedom and without fear. We can worship as we see fit. We can raise our children to believe as we do. We can travel from one end of this great nation to the other and not have to ask permission to go. We are free to vote for whomever we feel should be in government office with no explanation needed. We have the right to succeed, and we have the right to fail at whatever endeavor we wish to pursue. The United States of America was founded on ideals of freedom, justice, and equality. Our nation stands as a shining beacon of liberty and freedom to the world. We are here today to thank those who gave their lives to keep us free and tell them that we shall not forget them. We shall remember. Today, many of you here are veterans of wars and conflicts that America has had to fight to protect the innocent and oppressed. This nation has always been the first to stand up for the freedom of people from around the world. Many of you here today have answered that call and served your country well. We are here today to say thank you, and we are honored to know you. There are many men and women serving today in all branches of the military, here at home and in places far away that most of us have never heard of. These men and women are part of the best trained, best equipped force in the world. We honor them and their families for their sacrifice they make every day to keep our country safe from terrorism, hatred, and injustice. Quoting our 40th President, Ronald Reagan, "Freedom is never more than one generation from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same, or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free." Today, we show a united front of gratitude and respect across the United States of America as we remember the fallen, honor those who serve, and teach our children the value of freedom.
Sergeant Levi Hopper will now introduce the Honor Guard members as they hang the Remembrance Wreaths.
Now, Staff Sergeant Goodwin will lay a remembrance wreath in memory of those who served and are serving in the United States Army. We shall not forget you. Now, Specialist Schmidt will lay a remembrance wreath in memory of those who served and are serving in the United States Marine Corps. We shall not forget you. Now, Specialist Hall will lay a remembrance wreath in memory of those who served and are serving in the United States Navy. We shall not forget you. Now, Specialist Nugent will lay a remembrance wreath in memory of those who served and are serving in the United States Air Force. We shall not forget you. Now, Private First Class Henderson will lay a remembrance wreath in memory of those who served and are serving in the United States Space Force. We shall not forget you. Now, Private Richter will lay a remembrance wreath in memory of those who served and are serving in the United States Coast Guard. We shall not forget you. Now, Staff Sergeant Goodwin will lay a remembrance wreath in memory of those who served and are serving in the United States Merchant Marines. We shall not forget you. Now, I will lay a remembrance wreath in honor of the 93,129 United States service members from all branches of the service whose last known status was either prisoner of war or missing in action. These individuals have never returned to their families and homes. We shall not forget you.
Thank you so much. Now I'm honored to introduce our keynote speaker for the day. Brigadier General J. Stuart Goodwin received his Bachelor of Science degree in Management Marketing and was commissioned through the Reserve Officer Training Corps program from the University of Evansville in 1971. He received his Master of Science degree in Industrial Safety from the University of Central Missouri in 1975. The General has served in all three components of the Air Force, active, reserve, and guard, involving both operational and support positions, such as Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Launch Officer, Chemical Warfare Defense Officer, Air Base Survivability Officer, and Chief of Staff of the Indiana Air National Guard. His final assignment was the commander of the Indiana Air National Guard and the Indiana Assistant Adjutant General for Air. He is currently the Executive Director of the Indiana War Memorials Commission located in Indianapolis and has over 1 million visitors annually. He is responsible for the operations and maintenance of 25 acres of property and buildings in downtown Indianapolis, including a 30,000 square foot museum, the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, the Indiana War Memorial, the National Medal of Honor Monument, the Indiana 9/11 Memorial, and the USS Indianapolis CA-35 Heavy Cruiser Monument. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brigadier General, United States Air Force, retired J. Stuart Goodwin.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor for me to be here today. We've heard a lot about today, and we've heard a lot about the organization that is involved with this. I want to review with you just very quickly the three missions parts of their statement. Remember our U.S. veterans, honor those who serve, and teach our children the value of freedom. So we're going to talk about each one of those very briefly, and before we do that, we want to talk about the fact that if you don't know much about Indiana history, I would offer you the opportunity to learn about Indiana military history, because it is amazing. When you think about the fact that we became a state in 1816, and then shortly after that was the war with Mexico, and we had people there on the borders during those 2 years. But the Civil War is the one that really gets my attention, because what happened was in the Civil War, we know that the Commonwealth, Kentucky, was a border state. They weren't either north or south. And the truth of the matter is that Indiana was almost a border state. Our governor at the time was a guy named Oliver Morton, and he had a BFF, a best friend forever, that you might have heard of. His name was Abraham Lincoln. And what happened was that Abraham Lincoln was looking for soldiers for the northern forces. And so he talked Governor Morton into having Indiana fight for the North, which was problematic at that time because there were an awful lot of people, especially in southern Indiana, that migrated from the deep south. And they were torn about which side they should really be on. Well, Governor Morton was convinced about this, and so we went from not being almost in the war at all as a border state to some really amazing facts. 3 out of 4 men who could have served did serve. Now, the first thing that tells me is, who was running Indiana? Pretty obvious it was women, females that were running Indiana. But wait a minute, that's really tough to deal with because women don't have any rights at this point in time. They can't vote, they can't own land, they can't enter a contract, but yet they ran Indiana. And the truth of the matter is what should have happened after the Civil War is women should have got the rights right then because they proved their value to our country. Think about the fact that 10% of the Union Army was made up of Hoosiers. The fact is that we went from, there was only one state that had more people in the Civil War per capita than us, and that was the small state of Delaware. So we had this very storied history, and if you look at every conflict, from the war with Mexico all the way up through now, the global war on terror, Hoosiers have served in disproportionate numbers than almost every other state. Hoosiers get it. They understand about freedom, and they understand about protecting their country. So, one of the things that I think you should know about, and I'm specifically talking to the young people now, is the fact that all of those men and women that stood up when they asked about who were veterans or who had served, those folks made up out of 1 out of 10 people who live in our country today. Out of 330 million Americans that we have, only 1 out of 10 have served. Now, I would imagine a group this size, you probably have some family members, maybe they belong to the Guard or the Reserve, or they're on active duty at this point in time. People that are actively serving today are even more rare because they only make up 0.5% of our entire Army, all of our armed forces. Now, what I think is really important about that is that we are so small today. And the reason we're so much smaller because we're about the same size as we were before the start of World War II, as far as numbers-wise. Technology plays a big part in that because we have one airplane that would do what 50 P-51s would do. But the fact is, and a lot of people here could attest to this, you've got to have boots on the ground. You've got to have people taking care of the ground. And so what happens is, I think it's very important, the fact that we talk to those people and we pay attention to them. And young people, I can tell you, when you see somebody in the mall or you see somebody on the street and they've got an Army or Navy or Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard hat on, tell them thank you. Because of all of the things that we go through, we leave our families, we take an oath. All of us take the same oath that we will give and up to our lives to protect people that we will never meet and never know. That's quite a promise to make. So what we also want to talk about real briefly is the fact that Evansville, Indiana, has really stepped up in the history of our country. I've just made a few notes here about the fact that we had a situation where in our museum we identified about 140 products that were made in Indiana since World War II, and a bunch of those came from Evansville. The LST, we know about that, and the fact that they carried 20 tanks or 30 military vehicles or 200 troops. And the fact is that there were 19,500 Hoosiers that worked at that plant, and they made a ship every 4 days. And 167 of them were built in the Evansville plant. The P-47 Thunderbolt, 8,300 workers. And the fact is that this was a jet that weighed, carried a bomb load of 2,500 pounds, and the jet actually weighed 8 tons. It was a very heavy machine. Ammunition, this is the one that just baffles me. But the Chrysler plant over there in 1942, they were making cars, and the next thing you know, they weren't making cars, they were making bullets. And the truth is that 45 caliber ammunition, one of the most highly used bullet during that time, 96% of the entire American use was built in this town. That is an amazing fact. The MREs, the meals ready to eat. Yeah, we've had them. A bunch of us have had them. Not the best food in the world, but it's food. And the truth of the matter is that about 30% of the MREs in the Department of Defense are made here. The M1 Garand was a situation with International Harvester, and what happened was they didn't need to make tractors or trucks. And so what they made was the M1 Garand rifle, and I'm sure there's some of you here that have fired that weapon. It's one of the best weapons that have ever been made. Carrying on, I think it's interesting to note that we also have a situation where we have, with the rifle production, we have a thing that the reason that Evansville was chosen for a plant, because the other plant was in Massachusetts, and this was during the nuclear war, it started nuclear war, and what they were worried about and why Evansville was chosen, because they were afraid of making all the ammunition in Massachusetts and it would take a nuclear hit. They wanted to put something in the Midwest, and Evansville was the city that they chose. I want to talk a little bit about freedom, what we're doing about freedom, and what is the bottom line. I think it's important for you to know that 7,057 Americans have died since 9/11. 7,057. 209 of those folks were Hoosiers. And so what happens is it's been the longest protracted operation that we've had in the history of our country, and it all started on 9/11. I would guess, if I would ask you a question, where were you on 9/11? Now, some of you, I understand, weren't born yet, but the fact that the rest of us, I think everybody could say they remember where they were that day. Remember? Yeah, it was a very strange day. But do you remember also about after that day, things changed in our country. And what happened was that we remember what happened during that time, and it was the first time in a long time it was us versus them. And patriotism was what? At its highest point, because all we could think about was our country. That day and for several months, our differences did not matter. Religion, race, lifestyle, politics, these things that should not define us. We've become a nation of labels. One label that we can and always should grasp is that we are Americans first. Doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. It doesn't matter what chromosome you have. It doesn't matter where you came from. The fact of the matter is this country was built on immigrants. And the fact is that we need to get back about not thinking about our individual freedoms, and we need to think about our national freedoms. What we need to do is that they're eroding, and our lifestyle that we knew and cherished has dramatically changed. Remember when you could walk into an airport without having to get touched all over and all that business? Remember by going to pro football games or basketball games or any place? The truth is that now we have a situation where we have people telling us where to wear masks and how to wear them. We have those individual freedoms that have been taken away from us. The other thing that's really disappointing at this time is the targeting of law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, foreign religious zealots attacking our citizens and torturing, killing thousands of innocent people around the world. And we've taken this freedom for granted for far too long. Our individual rights and special interests combined with a lack of natural strategy to protect our sovereignty seem to be more important than what is best for America. The world today is unlike any time that we've ever seen, and many think that their indicators are present that should warn us of major changes to come, some of which have and may continue to degrade the lifestyle that we now know. Sir Winston Churchill, one of my favorite historian people to talk about or think about, he made a statement to the House of Commons on the 2nd of May in 1935. 1935, just before World War II. And this is what he said: when the situation was manageable, it was neglected. And now that it is thoroughly out of hand, we apply the remedies, which then might have affected the cause. What was the result of them not heeding that? Was World War II. And the end result was 60 million killed, which at that time was 3% of the entire population. He also said those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So there are similarities to what we just talked about and today. We know these things are wrong. We know these things are not going in the right direction, yet we fail to do anything about it. This land is our home and freedom is fragile. We have a duty to always protect our freedoms and our country before it's too late. Once lost, it will be gone forever. And someone who does not have our best interests in mind will be telling us how to live. These words are not meant to be pessimistic or threatening. They are meant to be thought-provoking and actionable. And they need to be shared with our children when it's the right time, when parents think it is to do that. And make sure that they understand. Now is the time for all of us to pick up the mantle of our founding fathers, established 245 years ago, when our country was for the people. Today, with wreaths across America, we honor those who volunteered to serve and gave their lives so that you and I can live free. The world we live in today just didn't happen. It happened because people like we saw standing up before. We saw about the people that are out here in these fields that gave their lives and served so we can live the way we live today. Most important that we need to think about is that we have differences. And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but our differences should make us stronger, but they make us more divisive. Citizens continuing on the current path of mistrust and of authority, self-importance, and failure to contribute to our nation will surely lead to the loss of our freedoms and chaos. Individual freedoms come from national freedoms. Accommodating everyone's individuality will eventually destroy national cohesiveness. In other words, at some point, we need to understand that being a citizen of the greatest nation in the world has a price. And that price is, as we said earlier, we should be Americans first. We are so much stronger together than we are separately. Our enemies see us as a fractured society. We appear weak because of explaining the differences among ourselves. Have you noticed when you have a discussion with someone today that differs from your opinion, it oftentimes becomes personal or confrontational and threatening to the relationship? We have lost the art of debate, which further divides this country, and we are so much better than that. One of my favorite quotes comes from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, "We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools." If you think we could never lose our freedoms, think about the 21 countries that were controlled by the Soviet Union from 1922 to 1991. We can make a difference. Our differences, we must put them aside and concentrate on what is best for our country. Matthew 12:25. If a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Another historic reminder is this one. United we stand, divided we fall. Please pray for peace and for those who gave their lives, those still serving to protect us, and we must never forget their families. Always remember the families. And always remember the warrior fights, but the family also serves. 9/11 sent us a message 20 years ago. The battle came to America, and it could come again. It is time we listen to that message. We are Americans first, and freedom must be maintained, one nation under God. Today's event is another example of why we live free. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Okay. Now, we have a couple of representatives from our Sons of the American Revolution. Cliff Holm and Danny Reisinger will have our closing remarks.
They say that a veteran dies twice, once when he takes his last breath, and again when his name is spoken for the last time. So we encourage every volunteer here today who places a wreath on a veteran's grave to say that veteran's name aloud and take a moment to thank him or her for their service to our country. It's a small act that goes a long way towards keeping the memory of our veterans alive. These live balsam wreaths symbolize our honor to those who have served and are serving in the armed forces of our great nation, and to their families who endure sacrifices every day on our behalf. Each wreath is a gift of appreciation from a grateful America.
To our children, we want you to understand that the freedoms you enjoy today have not been free, but have come with a cost that someday you may have to pay yourself. As a nation standing together, we can defeat terrorism, hatred, and injustice. And thanks to our veterans, we have the freedom to do just that. I hope you will do one more thing before you leave today. After you place your wreath, I want you to take a picture of the marker. Then when you get home, look up the name on the internet and learn more about your veteran. Remember, we're not here today to decorate graves. We're not here to remember their deaths. We are here to remember and celebrate their lives.
At this time, the Marine Corps League will give the 3-volley salute and play taps. Thank you. Sergeant Hopper and his honor guard will now fold the flag during the reading of the 13 folds, and they'll present the flag to the American Heritage Girls. Each of the 13 folds is a salute to veterans across time. Fold number 1, in honor of the 13 original colonies and our forefathers who founded this great nation, we salute you. Fold number 2, to the men who died in the War for Independence, we salute you. Fold number 3, to those men who fell in the War of 1812 to preserve our freedom, we salute you. Fold number 4, to the brave soldiers on both sides, the North and the South, in the Civil War, we salute you. Fold number 5, to those who shed their blood in the name of hope and freedom in the Great War, we salute you. Fold number 6, for our fathers and sons who died in the terrible battles of World War II, Pearl Harbor, Anzio, Midway, the Bulge, Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, Normandy, and Berlin, we salute you. Fold number 7, to the men of the 1st Marine Division who, in a rearguard action at the Chosin Reservoir in Korea, saved their battalion and the lives of their brother Marines, we salute you. Fold number 8, for those who died on the fields of fire in Vietnam and whose names will live on forever in that hallowed wall, we salute you. Fold number 9, for all the brave men and women of our armed forces who are currently serving in harm's way around the globe, we salute you. Fold number 10, for all past commanders-in-chief, on whose shoulders the mantle of freedom has rested so delicately for more than 200 years, we salute you. Fold number 11, to God, our parents, and our families who we love and respect, we salute you. Fold number 12, to all the men and women of our armed forces, past, present, and future, protecting this arsenal of democracy, we salute you. Fold number 13, and last, to freedom. Freedom to speak, freedom to assemble, freedom to worship as we please, freedom from want, freedom from fear, and on this we vow that as long as this flag flies, we salute you. After the flag is completely folded and tucked in, it takes on the appearance of a cocked hat, ever reminding us of the soldiers who served under General George Washington and the sailors and Marines who served under Captain John Paul Jones, who were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the armed forces of the United States, preserving for us all, for all time, the rights, privileges, and freedoms we enjoy today. The representatives from the American Heritage Girls.
On behalf of the President of the United States Army, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service.
And now, we will retire the colors. Thank you all so much. This concludes our ceremony today. There will be a white car waiting outside, probably over here somewhere, waiting to lead everyone down to our Veterans Field of Honor. If you would follow him, please just park along the side of the road, along the Field of Honor, and someone there will help you get to the wreaths so that you can begin laying the wreaths. Thank you again so much. If you have a grave, if you have a wreath that goes on a specific grave, please stay and check with me before you leave. Thank you.